This lawsuit is the first of many steps we are taking to ensure that all eligible voters can cast a vote, that all lawful votes are counted, and that every voter has access to accurate information.
All right. The Attorney General kind of seemed to be channeling Pastor Troy there, declaring to Georgia, bump what they say, ain't no more playing GA. I love to see it. After Senate Republicans filibustered the For the People Act this week, Democrats better find a plan B fast, with states pushing even more draconian restrictions, like the Texas Senate Bill 7, which will come back from the dead in a special session on July 8th. Joining me now, Cliff Albright, co-founder and executive director on Black Voters Matter, and Carolyn DeWitt, president and executive director of Rock the Vote. Cliff, I gotta say, this lawsuit from Merrick Garland, flanked by Kristen Clark, I mean, I love to see it. It gave me hope. It gave me, the energy to fight this battle. Where are you on this? Where's Black voters on this? And what does the battle look like ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. No, it was good to see. It was good to see Kristen Clark standing there. It was good to see Vanita Gupta standing there. Again, this is a reminder that representation matters, right? Elections have consequences. And those two appointments, having not just two women of color, but two civil rights attorneys to be in high positions within that Justice Department, it means a lot. This is an important step. We, of course, and many other organizations filed suit against Georgia as soon as Brian Kemp signed it. The ink wasn't even dry when we filed our lawsuit. And we've been waiting for the Justice Department to do something similar or to join in on some of these briefs. It took a little while, partially because this is the very reason why Republicans attacked those nominations. They knew what would happen if those nominations, those high appointments within the Justice Department went through, that you would see a Justice Department that was actually trying to implement voting rights justice instead of standing in the way and supporting voter suppression. So this is definitely a step in the right direction. We're hoping to see more of it, not just from the Justice Department, but from other aspects of the Biden administration, including the president himself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the people want to see. You know, people throw knuckles. Just for our audience, Kristen Clark was with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, and Vanita Gupta was with the Leadership Conference for Civil Rights. So two amazing women there. Carolyn, let me ask you, because I don't know if this battle can be won in the courts. I think it is something to give some people something to hold on to and fight. But what are some outside-the-box ideas and approaches to ensuring that people have a clear, fair path to the ballot box? I think you're uniquely positioned to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Tiffany. I think the reality is, most voters showed up in 2020 and went on and resumed about their lives. They don't know this is happening. They don't know that the direct assault on their freedom to vote is happening. And so we need to raise awareness about this and point toward the path of this federal legislation for the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and put pressure on senators to pass these laws.
So, Cliff, it's interesting to me that Stacey Abrams is the latest boogeyman for the Republicans, and the about face that some Republicans have made. I want you to take a listen to the Georgia Attorney General talk about this lawsuit on Fox News. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
And this is, again, it's a blatantly political lawsuit. This Justice Department, and I'm going to quote what Governor Brian Kemp said, the weaponization of the Department of Justice should bother everybody. It has now been weaponized by a group of political activists who don't like what our state has done.
Oh, we don't like weaponizing the DOJ now. This was after Bill Barr acted as Donald Trump's personal attorney, but now we're weaponizing the DOJ. How interesting. Cliff, what's the role here of the DOJ? Like, can the DOJ kind of in this fight with voting rights, or is it going to rely on the courts? Is it going to rely on organizations like yours, quite frankly?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to take a combination of those strategies. We did a press conference just last night at the Supreme Court because yesterday was actually the 8th anniversary of the Shelby versus Holder decision, the decision which in many ways opened up the floodgates to a lot of the voter suppression that we've seen in recent years. And so it's going to take a combination of strategies. Yes, the Department of Justice can play a role. That's why we've been calling on them to be more active. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to continue to do what we have to do in the streets, at protests, at the Capitol, today at 12 o'clock in D.C. as part of Freedom Ride, as we continue to do what we do, which is to raise awareness, to educate voters, and to get people making phone calls and text messages and putting pressure on the court, on senators like Joe Manchin, and on the president. We need to pressure all three branches of government, because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take. Think about it, Tiffany. A lot of people think that in our movement, you take the Montgomery bus boycott as an example, that it was just a boycott that ended segregation of Montgomery buses. It was actually a Supreme Court case, Browder versus Gale, that actually ended the segregation. But would that have happened without the mass mobilization of the boycott? Probably not. So it's always taken a combination of litigation, of advocacy, of policy, and of mass mobilization. That's why I'm sitting here in D.C. today on my way to the Capitol, so that we can have a rally with thousands of people demanding the passage of the For the People Act.
Demanding the passage of the For the People Act. Carol, I want to ask you, because there's been a lot of frustration around voting rights. Like Cliff just said, not everybody, and like you made the point, not everybody's paying attention to this battle. Everyone who's saying, if I were alive during the civil rights movement, this is what I would have been doing. Whatever you're doing, that's what you're doing for the civil rights movement. This is about black voters. I hate when I hear people say it's based on the big lie. Black voters have long faced voter suppression in this country. From your perspective, given who they're targeting, given who the base vote is in some of these areas, can the Democrats hold the power of the federal government if these voter restriction laws are staying in place?
Well, I think the reality is, and here's one thing to consider that we don't talk a lot about, is this is more than a direct assault on our democracy. It is a calculated move to silence the voices and strip the current and future power of an increasingly diverse electorate. We talk about the diversity of the youth generation, and we look at 16-year-olds specifically kind of make that mark of a minority majority. And so this is not just going to have consequences right now in our democracy, but for the future. So this is setting, this is a struggle for power. So what we need to be doing right now is really showing up and letting senators know there are going to be consequences to their actions, right? The reality is, as Cliff brought up, yesterday marked the anniversary of the Shelby County v. Holder decision, which said to Congress, you need to update this formula. It's been 8 years, and not for lack of trying, but 8 years they haven't passed a new formula and restored the Voting Rights Act, even though 80% of Americans want this. If any of us were told by our boss to do something in 8 years and we didn't do it, we'd be out the door. And elected officials need to know that's the consequence in 2022, but we cannot wait for democracy to be dismantled in that time.